want to welcome you first off. Thank you for coming out tonight. This is this business forum. I'm sure I know many of you have been to other business forums we've had in the past. Tonight's going to be a little bit different. In the past, we've gone through and talked about what's going on with the town, the projects, community development standpoint. All of the directors have spoken. We're going to get straight to the point tonight to some of our issues and concerns, and then we'll schedule another business forum meeting that will bring you up to speed. Jeremy will talk about the grant and some of the other things. Jill will talk about the town projects, but we'll schedule that at another date and time. All right? Everybody have the agenda. Is there anything on here that somebody would like to talk about? I'd like to capture that to make sure we have time to answer your questions and people walk out of here tonight feeling good and know they've got an answer on their question. Anything we'd like to add? No. Oh, okay. All right. All right.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
Would that come under miscellaneous if you want to talk about flags?
We can.
I've already had the first discussion with Mr. Camp.
Oh, okay. Yes.
And I was shot down, so I'd like to bring it up again.
Have a wider bullseye? Is that what you're looking
Yeah, exactly.
for? Okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you. Anybody else have anything? And again, if you think of anything while we're coming along, please raise your hand, let us know, and we'll capture that to make sure we get all of your answers tonight before you leave. All right? Appreciate that. Start off with quick introductions. I should have done that to begin with. I apologize. Felicia Hart, Director of Community Development and Tourism. Hopefully I know all of you by now. Joe, you'd like to?
I'm Joe Waltz, Town Manager.
Kel McGillis, Chief of Police. No most of you.
Jake Moza, Town Council.
Bill Seelock, Town Council.
Paula Stark, Mayor.
Jeremy Camp, Planning and Zoning Director.
Robert Ward, Public Works Director.
DJ Wilson, Director of Finance.
Oh, Nikki Foster, Chamber of Commerce. Like, am I with the town?
No. Introductions for everybody.
Alan Taylor, Manager of Southern States and Chairman of the Chamber.
Mike Swagger, the Kiln Doctor.
Anna Reno, Gourmet Delights Gifts and Framing.
Tommy Yeager, Community Volunteer, Resident.
Todd Yeager, husband.
I'm JJ from the Try Thai restaurant order.
The new one.
Nat Try Thai owner. Thank you.
Bill Barnett with Edward Oak Tree Commercial Realty.
Kevin Rogers, InfoTech.
Well, I don't know which hat to wear, so I'll just say I'm Nina Huck with CNC Frozen Treats, but I'm also a probation officer in this town.
William Huck, owner of CNC Frozen Treats.
County resident, just coming to see what's going on.
Kathy Ann Steiner, I used to live here and I shot at the front row first downtown.
I'm Jenny Leeser, owner of Main Street Travel.
George McIntyre, the Apple House.
Madeline Hickman, town resident.
Katrina Mead, City National Bank.
Jean Fogger, the owner of Jean's Jewelers.
June Reinhardt, resident and previous owner in town.
Joel Blogger, silent partner in Jean's Jewelers.
Kim Steiner, shopper in Cromwell.
All right. Mike.
Oh, Mike McCool with the Royal Examiner and National Media Services.
All right, well, welcome you all, and hopefully this is a networking. You all know each other too. If not, please make introductions and shake hands, get to know who our neighbors are, who your neighbors are. We want to start off with the gazebo common area, some of the issues and concerns. Joe, you've got a slide?
Yeah.
Like the presentation?
First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. My main objective tonight is to give you all a platform to let us know what are your concerns and issues. I've been hearing that over the past several months about concerns and issues of events happening down at the gazebo with Main Street. And so that's why we tried to get this forum together so we can provide a platform for y'all to voice your concerns and issues where we can take it back and take another look at what our code says and how we can manage that area down there equally with business as well as events. So I got a few slides I just want to go through to give a little basic information before we open up for open discussion. First of all, special events are in the Town Code, Chapter 72. The main purpose is to regulate, to accommodate competing demands for public use of streets, sidewalks, and public places. Permits are required for groups of 50 or more. Even if it's on private property, you still have to get a permit.
And Joe, just out that's a safety sake. That's so the police know what's going on. That's so the emergency, if there's an issue, they already know ahead of time. So that's what that purpose is.
Also, permits required for closing of the streets, public sidewalks, for parades, and such. This is taking a look back at 2017. Down in what I'm going to be talking about in the next couple slides, it seems to be the focus point, is the historical district with special permits. Right now, with events that's supposed to be less than 750 attendees are required to only be restricted to the gazebo area and the parking lot. When I took the statistics from last year, we had 113 events that was just gazebo only. But last year we had 7 events that were actually gazebo and the parking lot full closure. So I wanted to get that data out there before we can all look at what we're talking about. These are the events last year that encompassed the gazebo only, as well as the closure of the parking lot. So it kind of gives you an idea of what type of festivals and activities are going on down there. Obviously, some of the Vigil for Democracy and the pro-Trump supporters, I know there's some concern on there. Farmers Market, National Day of Prayer, Gazebo Flicks on Thursday. These are pretty standard stuff that happen late in the evening. Full closures, the building safety event, the car shows, Family Fun Day, and Chris Kendall Mart. When you start taking a look at Main Street closure, what I did was I did statistics of closures before 5 p.m. and after 5 p.m. with the mind of businesses. And as you can see, by the code, we are only allowed to close full Main Street 4 times a year. We can do partial closures, but only once a month and 4 times a year. So when you look at our statistics, and I also gave this sheet out, which basically summarizes the events for 2017, and also will show you where we're at right now for 2018. You'll notice it's somewhat consistent, besides maybe 1 or 2 different events. But as you can see, last year, for an example, we closed Main Street before 5 4 times. We did close it 5 times after 5. Right now, on 2018, it looks like we're going 4 for 4 right now. Oh, sorry.
Could you explain what you mean by partial closure of Main Street and full closure?
Yeah, partial closure is not going all the way up here to North Royal. It is using the gazebo area and coming up, I think, to Blue Ridge. Okay. Just that, what they call a partial closure. Okay. But what we've seen over the past couple of years, there's the partial closures kind of went away, and we went to full closures. And so we don't see many. I didn't see many partial closures at all in 2017. These are the events that close after 5. Taste of the Town, National Nights Out, Halloween, Hometown Halloween, Christmas Parade. These are the 4 events from 2017 that had closures before 5. Battlefront Roll, Wine and Craft, Blues and Brews, and Festivals of Leaves. The difference this year is, 1, we won't have the Battlefront Royal, but we did have a Family Fun Day parade. So I just wanted to get out that, and I want to find, it really is my intentions tonight to give everybody an opportunity to get their opinion out, their concerns and their issues, for that I can hear what everybody's concerns and issues are, where we can go back and we can reevaluate this event planning. And so with that, I'll open the floor for questions, comments, or suggestions.
Okay, I'd like to speak.
Sure.
I see, as far as, what you have here is your closings and all of those things, Joe, and that is correct. I mean, what you have down here is correct. I still think that there are things that are happening in these closures and in these areas when people are in this gazebo that is not they're not presenting Front Rural on a very good line. And there are many things that are happening in the gazebo area, and it's not about your freedom of speech, it's not about your freedom to assemble, it's not about the events you want to have. There are things that are happening in these events that, number one, are running off our tourists. I mean, we're supposed to be welcoming tourists to our downtown, welcoming them to come to businesses, to go to the visitor center. There's many times, and I'm right across from the visitor center, as you know, and I'm a 20-year business, guys, that's never been affected until the last 18 months. And that's where I am seeing that there are more things that are going on than were before. If you go back into 16, you didn't have this many things going on. There's no way, and I know that. It is now affecting my business. It's affecting my customer base being able to get to me, being able to, just come in, and where I have customers who, especially tourists, they come in across the street as they see me when they're coming in. I'm going to tell you that as of January of this year, that I can count and tell you that we probably have had 12 tourists that have come into our store, which is unheard of. I have a really good client that lives in New York that loves our town, wants to retire here. And she happened to be here during the one event downtown that had guns. And that's across from the visitor center, which is across from me. That is affecting me, guys, big time. You're not taking and you're not bringing your kids or getting out of your car if what you see across the street is guns and police officers who were, I'm glad were there, so that there was no issue. And I want to thank our chief for letting me know that, because I did not even know that event was going on. And no way for me to know that, no way for me to somehow let my customers know, don't come down today, because I would have told them that. I don't want to see this type of thing going on. How is our town to grow? How are we to help these businesses that are opening up the street? How are we going to help them if this is what people see when they first come? It's just not. And the event, there's got to be a way to put some of these events in different areas. Don't utilize the space all the time. Our parking is an issue downtown anyway. We all know that. We all know we have a parking issue. It's been a parking issue for a long time. So when you do take up parking that's right across from the visitor center, even your visitors can't get in, guys. They can't get in to come and go to your visitor center and have the visitor center tell them what's up the street and what they need to visit, as I do all the time when they come to my store. I don't know what the answer is. I'm hoping that you guys can come up with something that will help us to better understand what is going on, to better, even if it means, and correct me if I'm right, Joe, if I want a permit, I can go to the town hall, apply for it, pay $25, and be in the gazebo in 24 hours. Am I correct?
You would need a certificate of insurance, and if the gazebo was available, we would not. If it was available and and you need electric, you paid your $25 fee, and you had a certificate of liability to protect you in that event, we would not deny you access.
Okay, and how does that help me if you put 45 or 50 people over there in that gazebo? How does that help me to warn my customers in advance that there will be no parking that day? I mean, there's no way to even let them know. I mean, I think that there should be a timeline of some kind, and maybe even increasing the amount to get a permit, and increasing the time. Even if we do 30 or 60 days, at least then I can go to the site of Front Royal and say, oh, look, they have this event going on. You know, I have 30 days, so now I know that I can't plan my 20-year anniversary because they have an event going on. I love Front Royal, and I love the downtown, and I don't want to be any other place. There's got to be some way you guys can help us.
And that's why we're here tonight, Ms. Blogger, is to hear everybody's concerns and trying to find some common ground for everybody.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for listening to us.
Thank you.
I appreciate that very much.
Next.
So all you need to do is pay $25 and have a certificate of insurance.
Yeah, you come fill out the application. The application itself, special event permit application, has all the information on it you need, such as time you'd be setting up, how many would be in attendance, location, and what the event is, and what you're requesting. And like I say, if you're going to be using electricity down there, there's a $25 fee, and you would have to get a certificate of liability insurance.
Have you ever denied anyone your application?
Only if they didn't have their certificate of liability or if the area was already reserved.
Are there any restrictions for any type of an event that can or cannot be held there?
As our code states right now, there are no exemptions or specific, or in our code doesn't specify that.
Has the town talked about this privately as being an issue? If that's the case, because it seems to me that's not helping downtown.
No, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, I was involved many years ago in helping to get the gazebo area through the Downtown Business Association really spruced up and the setting so that people felt comfortable being there and sitting and talking. I don't see that happening now because I don't think people feel free or sometimes even safe. I think that's hurting, and we do have a beautiful downtown. It is just beautiful. And I would just encourage you to think about some restrictions on use of that space.
Yeah, we started hearing some issues last year, but it really bubbled up early spring, and that's why we're here today to address that because even if we decide, if council decides to change the code or to do something different, it's going to take a process because it's in the code, so there'll be public hearings and all that. So the time is now to look for the future, and that's why we're here today. Yes?
One of the things that you do have to take into account is First Amendment issues. If there is changes to the code, there could be, there's only so much you can change it without actually without exposing the town to liability from lawsuits and things like that from people who will sue on the basis that their First Amendment rights would be denied.
Well, anything that we do will be vetted through our town attorney to make sure that we comply with all laws.
So did you say it's $25 if you use electricity, but
Yes.
Is it free if you don't?
Yeah, there's no fee.
There's no
You're
fee
just
to use
gonna
it, so
it.
maybe
You just
that's-
But the certificate of insurance, from my understanding, would cost people $300 to $400 to get that,
For
to get
one
town
event.
and Front Royal additionally insured. So there is a cost to that.
So and so all these groups have paid.
They've
That-
either, if they're using electricity, they paid, but they all have had a certificate of liability.
And so do they have to get a certificate of liability for each event? So if it's something weekly or monthly?
It'll have to cover those amount of events. So if
Okay.
the events are every, once a month, and it will state on that.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just curious if any consideration is being given to, especially the protesters, to have them protest at the courthouse instead of down at the gazebo. That would seem to be a more appropriate area for something like that, and still allow them their freedom of speech.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we really, I truly understand that issue, and we will try to find some solutions that we can do by law, but we are looking at that right now as what our options are legally. And that would probably be incorporated into anything we do decide to change in the permitting process, because that would need to be codified so that we can make sure that we treat everybody equally. Well,
Yeah. Coinciding with the additional events that have been occurring at the gazebo is, of course, the opening of successful businesses. Everything, the restaurant crowd and everything at lunchtime is really packs that area full and everything. And so it's putting a strain on the available parking that is, in Front Royal. And before I think we start passing additional ordinances to correct that problem, I think some of the ordinances that we have, which are very tough to enforce, but is a number of people who are commuter parking in all of the Front Royal Town lots. And I'm just wondering, I know that there have been efforts over the years at different methods taking, but I'm just wondering whether, it's something, Gail, we could, that police could maybe have a presence there at the early morning sometimes and letting people know that, they're subject to ticket if they leave their car off there all day long. Or some additional signage or public information, because we do have commuter parking lots that are available throughout the county, and it's not like it's just a matter of probably a slight convenience difference. But that's the purpose of the commuter lots that all of us fund through our taxes. And I would say that one of the things to take the pressure off of that existing parking is to try to eliminate that portion of it.
yes, George?
Thank you, Joe. I'm speaking because our family has a building on Main Street, and we have had we had a deli down there, and so I'm very familiar with a lot of the things that have occurred, and we saw a lot of things firsthand that we disagreed upon, the legal matters. As far as this goes with the applications and such, and the permits, has raising the fees been considered?
Actually, this is the start of us reevaluating the whole process. And before I started, I wanted to find out what y'all's concerns and issues were. So there's no sense working inside a vacuum.
My only comment there is that I would strongly suggest you consider raising that appreciably, because there are all kinds of ways people can get funded, sponsorships and so on, to pay it, but get them where they don't like it.
I agree that would be another mechanism to at least slow the process. Yes.
You brought up somebody brought up the parking, and we come downtown 2 or 3 times a week during the day, and people park over the lines, and I understand that that's not illegal, that the police, we asked a policeman if they could ticket somebody, and they said no. Is that true, and or is there some way to enforce people parking? People are taking up 2 spaces is what it is, and so you can't park, so I don't know, maybe that's
to the chief.
Double parking is something that we could look at. The problem is right now we've been reevaluating the parking situation in the Main Street area, and I've spoken to a lot of business owners about the situation down there. Some of the problem is a lot of our signage needs to be changed. Some of it, there's a lot of it that doesn't agree, and started working with the planning and zoning and the town manager, and then of course when the downtown block grant came into effect, our understanding is that there's some parking engineering that's going to be going into that. Okay. So we kind of pump the brakes on moving forward with any of that until that gets done. Doing a whole bunch of work that's going to come back and somebody's going to change up, and then we've got to explain to everybody else, yeah, we did all these signs and now we got to change them again. So we're kind of waiting to see how that works out, and then moving forward. Once that moves forward, then we'll begin with an enforcement, in earnest at that point.
There ought to be law.
That's one thing we see at the bakery. We have overnight parking from people in apartments. You'll have long-term parking that people that are the shopkeepers and everything will park there, all day. It's a 2-hour parking. This is for our customers. It's limited parking anyway. Let's leave that for our customers.
So my question, in what you just said, does that mean that basically because of the signage and not coinciding property everywhere that you can't enforce those signs that are there, or?
Well, it gets problematic at times when you've got parking in one section where the sign says 2-hour and parking on the other side that says 4-hour. How many of those tickets are going to actually hold up in court? I mean, those are some of the problems. So yeah, in other words, what we're trying to do is get ahead of the parking strategy and then work on the enforcement. And then in the process of working on that, the block grant came through and provided some parking solutions that are going to be coming out of that. So we just kind of held up on moving forward with that until we saw how this shook out.
So are there plans for short-term or long-term for changing that common area, gazebo area?
Well, we do have some work planned through the CDBG with an open-air pavilion down there and a bathroom in the near future, with part of that in the next 2 years, or more than 2 years, really.
Well, we have to do all that in 2 years.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have, in the 2 years, there will be at least the foundation for the open air shelter and a bathroom and stuff like that. So we are going to be seeing some more improvements down there in the commons area.
And greater usage of that, the whole purpose of putting that down there for the community to take advantage of.
So Jill, let me ask you, do you have a suggestion then for when we, as business owners, hear and see different things that are going on while these individuals are in the gazebo, to our tourists and to our customers, how we should handle that?
As you're referring to?
I'm referring to them approaching the tourists, and then after they've been in the visitor center, then they were going to go up the street, but they get back in their car and they leave because they've been approached. And then I'm referring to people who have bullhorns and hollering at people, saying very obscene things, which I don't really understand. And then also, I'm talking about the fact that, if you have your kids down there, some of the things that they're saying, it's not something I want in front of my children.
I would call the PD. I would have more police presence down there if you feel that there's an issue. Their concern is safety. I would call the PD. Wouldn't you agree, Cale, that if they feel that there's a safety issue down there?
Yeah, anytime anybody feels unsafe, certainly call the police department.
Yeah, and we'll get it down there. And a lot of times, sometimes police presence is all it takes for behaviors to be corrected.
My customers, for the most part, my customers contact me either by email or by phone, but some of them do like to come in. My older customers like to come in and face-to-face do business. And I've had issues where the parking on Main Street is tricky, and we all know that. They have tried parking at the gazebo, and they have been approached by people. One of my vendors got approached by someone who was asking for favors, or whatever those people do, and he was very caught off guard. He said to me, "I thought this was a nice sleeping little town." Well, it's not if you have prostitutes coming up to you in the middle of the day. Some of my clients will not come on Wednesdays because that's when the political stuff is going on. And I think that if your regulations for getting a license don't have some caveats about no bullhorns, no approaching people who are trying to walk around you, unless somebody is coming up to your side of the corner and engaging with you, I think that they should be held to a different standard. They should be said, you know, they can yell at each other as long as they keep it down and not approach the visitors, the clients who are trying to do business on Main Street, because it ends up hurting us. I've had instances where I've had to go out to Starbucks and meet my clients out there because they don't want to come to Main Street. And I am a Main Street retailer. It means a lot to me to have my clients accept what, you know, the new businesses, you come down here in the evenings, whether it's to have dinner or go to the movies or just to stroll. I want them to know what we have down here and to make use of it. But if they are uneasy because you've got people who are supposedly Christians saying some very un-Christian-like things, that may not be against the law, and I had this conversation with you on the sidewalk the other day, but it doesn't present a great atmosphere for families. I mean, Williams Business has families every single day and night coming in for ice cream, and they don't need to listen to that kind of stuff. None of us do, actually, but I think some of these groups need to take all of that anger and fire and perhaps move to the government center or something where they can just shout to their heart's delight, you know, and not be around the businesses on Main Street. And not trying to step on anybody's right to speak out or to get together as a group. I don't mean that in any way. I'm all for that. I just don't want it to scare off our clients, our customers, our families.
So just for clarification, the protesting group that's being referred to, they're not getting any kind of permit, they're just gathering?
They're gathering, they fill out a permit just to cover the bases. We have a lot of people that'll do that, even though they won't, you know, they're just doing a little sidewalk demonstration. But they do fill out the paperwork just for the, we'll know.
But even if they didn't fill out the paperwork, they still have a right to gather there?
Yeah, they still have a right to gather there.
Up to 50 people.
Hmm?
Up to 50 people.
Up to 50 people, you are correct.
Joe.
Yes, sir.
Help me out. I may be missing something here. I know that there's two groups that gather on Wednesday afternoons from 5 to 6. They used to gather at noon to 1.
Right.
But it sounds like people are talking about things going on all the time, that there's problems there, and I haven't.
There are.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the two issues should be separated because, you know, it should be clarified because they don't sound like, I mean, something that happens, it may be very bothersome for an hour on Wednesday, but still an hour on Wednesday. It's not, you know, 7 days a week, and it's not at night. So I was just wondering if there's if the people that are having the problems could clarify, in addition to the, you know, ones that their customer was approached and everything. Is there other things going on at the gazebo like that?
There are numerous things going on at the gazebo. There are numerous, and you know, you have individuals that are there, you know, they're a religious group, they're having music, they're singing. To me, I want to make it clear, but it's not about the fact that they're there. It's about the fact that there is too much going on there, which is causing a parking issue, which we already have. And I really want to make that clear. I love having events and I love having people downtown. That is not my issue here. My issue is that there are too many things happening that are now causing my customers not to be able to get to me. And I'm a 20-year business that has never struggled during some of the worst economic times. But it is causing me to struggle now, and I don't like that. And if I'm struggling, how are these new businesses that we're opening up the street, how are they going to make it? How are we going to support them so that they make it? They're not going to make it, guys. That's what we have to look at. It's not about anything. It's just about all of the issues that are going on across the street, period, for me.
Great.
And I really want to make that clear.
That's good.
George? Thank you, Joe. Just because of where I am in business, one of the things that we've found and what Gene's talking about, I can sympathize because I certainly understand it. The world in itself, society in general, is facing this type of issue. because, and it's not unique to Front Royal, it's not unique to Warren County, it's the world. What we've done at the Apple House is because those festivals and all those things, the things that we work to bring here, to bring tourism here, to bring our customers here, people off the interstate, what we do is we've started this past year because we noticed changes. And what we did is we started hiring off-duty police officers for every weekend. Now that's just our business. We have a number of businesses there, but we hire them. What they do, usually only one. He comes in, or she makes a presence. We encourage them to kind of stay visible, which they do. They walk the property, they do all this kind of stuff, and it's not expensive. Someone has to pay for it. It's not, you can't expect the Sheriff's Department to sit out at the Apple House. So we do that, and it completely changed the attitude of our customers. There is a calmness about it, and there's no more, because we have plenty of people who are at interstate highway system, talk to the sheriff about what happens over there and what comes off of there. Because we see people, and we see them on our property, in our parking, you know, all the stuff we have, just like downtown. And so we made efforts to move forward and do something, and we discussed it with the Sheriff's Department, so we worked together on that. And my suggestion would be that you consider for your weekends and things like that, that you offer that to each other. You know, yeah, if you can increase your sales, if you can keep your customers happy, it pays for itself. It's not hard. That's a good way to approach it. And to see them walking up and down this street, and to change, I would also suggest, when you, like you're talking about your time constraints, if you don't enforce them, they're not any good. So, you know, start enforcing them, start changing them, make them uniform, whatever it takes to do it, because that's what they're having to do everywhere, not just in Warren County. Anyway, sorry.
William Hunt from CNC Frozen Treats. I am one of the small businesses that have opened up, and I am one that does some of these events on Main Street that has parking issues and concern. I will agree that our parking is an issue, but being a small business on Main Street and opening up, it was because of the events we had on Main Street that got me the reputation that I have today. I would not have been noticed as quickly or as loud as I was had we not had the Taste of the Town or the Wine and Craft Fest. Within 2 weeks of opening my doors, we had events. That's how people knew who I was and where I could be found. So giving back to the community has been one of those things that I've wanted to do from day one. That's why we do the events that we do. I can agree that we have a parking issue downtown on certain events, on certain things. I don't agree with every event that happens downtown, but as has been stated, it is their amendment, first right amendment, to have these events. We as business owners need to be more proactive and going out. I come to town hall, I ask people what's going on throughout the months. Every week that's going on, that something is happening, I know what is going on at the gazebo area because I ask these questions routinely, daily, weekly, monthly. I go to the different people and ask them. Joe, you've seen me in your office numerous times asking questions. Jeremy's seen me in his office numerous times asking code, asking questions, because the only way I'm going to know these answers is if I get them directly from you or ask the question so it can be answered. So I've never tried to hamper anybody's business by bringing the events, as in most of these events aren't to hamper anybody's business and take away from them. It's to bring notoriety to our area Some of the church groups are wonderful. Some of the people we have in the gazebo area aren't so great for our community. But it's their right to be there, as you stated. So if it's a fee that I had to pay extra to do it, I'd pay an extra fee to have the events that I want to do for our community to come together and grow stronger. That's how we're going to stop the people approaching them, is if they all feel comfortable with one another, and I know who you are and who your kids are, and I'm watching out for you, because we've come to a society that we're separated. We're separated by race, we're separated by wealth, we're separated by religion, we're separated by everything. My thoughts is bring everybody together, let's find common ground and one thing in common, and we find one thing in common, we'll find a second, and that second finds a third. So that would be where I would say we need to go. Thank you.
Any more?
I just want to make one point. A business owner on Main Street for the last 3 years, and then I won't say how many years as a probation officer in this town, just because then you can find out how old I am. But what I saw and I know was happening on Main Street when we first opened our business was a lot of drug deals, because I know. And because they're on my caseload. So that has significantly decreased, and part of that was the cameras at the gazebo. So when they were taken down, I was extremely upset, because that's a tool that they need as law enforcement, and was very happy when they got placed back up, because it is a tool that law enforcement needs in order to do their job effectively. And it makes people feel safe to know that they're there. And I'm glad that they're there. Well, and I'm not glad they're there, because it increases my caseload for my day job. However, it makes the downtown area safer. So I appreciate that. And I know they've decreased, because they're not coming onto my caseload from Main Street. So I appreciate that, and I know that has changed, and so it is safer on Main Street. And I know that it is safer on Main Street because of what I do in my day job. And so we've brought some happiness to Main Street, we've brought some cheer to Main Street, and we're going to continue to do that. I do like the idea, and there is more police presence on Main Street than there was 3 years ago. So I do appreciate that as well.
Once an organization gets a permit and they go down there and they do what they do, is there anyone from the town that comes down during the event, whatever it is, just to see how things are going, or does the town ever get any feedback from anybody that says, you know, organization XYZ really, you know, they're really not doing what they're supposed to be doing? There's some.
Actually, this year I have made an effort to make sure that I find out what's going on with the events. Did the event happen the way it was planned? So this year I'm putting special focus on following up on these events. If I don't make the event itself, I make sure a staff member is there to give me a report. Because what I'm told and what is approved and what actually happens sometimes could be different. So I'm really trying to focus well this year on what's actually what's happening versus what's on the permit. And that's, you know, so.
And I can say my staff at the visitor center, they're very diligent out there. So when they see something, they are on speed dial with the police. They do realize that is the visitor center, that is our guest area, that is our welcome mat to downtown. So they're very protective of that and make those phone calls so that if anything does get out of hand, it can be addressed quickly.
So let me just ask one question. What was the gazebo, other than making our Main Street attractive and beautiful, what was that area originally made for? What was it established for? Do we have a reason that it's there? I mean, is there?
Actually, June, do you have some history there?
Well, that was before I got here, the gazebo itself. But I do know there was a lot of focus on that area and making it beautiful and safe. And my husband and I did a lot of manual labor there, which we're very proud of. And it made such a big difference. This problem was not around then, and things have changed in our world. I think we have to be aware of that and address it somehow or another. I appreciate Gene saying it's a parking issue. It is more than a parking issue, in my opinion. It's what's going on there. It's feeling safe, feeling like I'm really proud to take my visitors downtown. I just think it needs to be looked at somehow, and I'm glad Joe is doing that. But
Council, do you have, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to just give a little history. I used to own 404 and 406 that is now the parking lot at the entrance of the gazebo. Bragg Bentley came to me 30+ years ago when he was town manager and says, I'd like to show you a rendering of what the town council is putting together. Kitty Stokes Compton owned the parking lot. I purchased 404 and 406, which had 8 apartments and 2 retail. And I was doing very well with those 8 apartments and 2 retail. But Bragg Bentley talked me into this vision that the town had. So I sold him the building. The reasoning I was given was we wanted to have a central place in Main Street that people could come and have festivities, because main streets were blocked off many times a year. So creating the gazebo area was town council's desire to have other people to come to do events. Huck has had maybe 2, 3 events, I don't know, 3 events. The Wine Fest Craft goes on every year. We've closed Main Street maybe 4 times, being on council since 2000. The businesses had problems with Main Street being closed altogether, so we limited it. We dropped it back. So I'm thinking maybe if Huck wants to do events at the gazebo, limit it to 4 times a year. If they want to protest, maybe limit it to 4 times a year. You know, there are things that I'm sure that the town council is going to be discussing. I have phoned Joe several times. He can attest to this, that I've seen people approached. I've seen children kind of like holding close to their mother going over to the ice cream shop. I do drive around and I see the folks out there on both sides. I do not stop because I don't want to get into all this political stuff that they're into. Your concerns are very important to council, because I'm hearing from my constituents that have children that try to go to CNC. They are scared to come down when the protesters are there, and I have mentioned it to Joe. So he has taken, like he said, he has put people there. So it is an ongoing issue that the town is having, but the gazebo was intended to be a public park for people to come, because at one time we used to own the parks, so that was another park area. We kept it when we gave the parks away to the county, except for the gazebo. We kept it. That's their little jewel that other towns are very jealous that we have. There are parking issues. The chief has mentioned some issues. We have been talking with about the parking issues. With the CDBG grant coming, there's going to be a study on parking. We're going to have the brewery that's going to require a lot of parking. We obtained the parking across from the little ATM because we knew that we didn't want to have our employees working here intruding into the town's businesses parking, so we have our own parking. So we've talked about this for years, and we've taken little steps. So maybe now, since Joe has a full page of his notes, that council will absolutely put this on the agenda, and we will be talking about it, absolutely. And my fellow council member, Bill Seelock, has filled out probably 2 pages of notes. He is a very astute listener. I have listened, and I have heard these from different people that I've talked to on Main Street. So I think Joe is going to get a handle on this, and let's see what we can do. We have a town attorney that can give us legal advice, and but absolutely, most of it comes from one event, and we'll see what we can do.
Make one comment?
Sure.
I agree with everything that you said, and I think you recapped it perfectly. I think there's a given that everybody's going to agree upon parking, public safety, our high priorities, and I think we don't have to belabor the point that you know, activist groups or protesters are going to drive away people. I think everybody understands that. I do think that it is kind of exciting that the demand for the gazebo is being increased, because I think that's a positive sign that people want to be downtown. I've driven by numerous times where I didn't know that there was a concert series going on, either local churches or bands or whatever, and I noticed families out there eating ice cream and sitting under the clock and enjoying the downtown in the evening, and I think that's a really good thing. I think it's so I do think it's a good problem that there's an increased demand for the gazebo. I think the trick is how do you regulate that with keeping the momentum of people wanting to come downtown and have an evening out. You know, this has been very informative for me to hear, particularly some of the concerns that drive away your customers that we have to figure out. I don't think it's I don't think it's as easy as just raising fees to deter people, because the gazebo is beautiful. We want people to come down here and be a part of Main Street. So I don't think it's as easy and clear cut as we would like the solution to be. But again, I do see that as a positive and something that we can figure out for the business owners.
Well said, Jake, well said.
I could just say something. This isn't just a Front Royal Town problem. If you go to Old Town Alexandria, if you go to Old Town Warrenton, everybody has parking issues. You know, I think we just want to make it more accessible for everybody's customers to come to town, and I think that's really the real issue. But it's not going to go away. We're going to create more parking, but once again, we're probably going to see more and more people come, and we're going to need more parking again. But you know, I just know Old Town Alexandria. You try to go down there sometimes, and I mean, there's nowhere to park. You got to walk from the top of King Street to the bottom, you know, sometimes.
Or you pay a lot of money to park.
And you know, they have the free trolley, which, you know, I mean, you can catch the free trolley and, you know, you can ride it. But I mean, maybe that's something we should look at too. Maybe putting some parking on the edge of town and, you know, trolleying in. There's different ways to do it. I just want to point out, it's not just our problem, it's problems in other cities and towns as well.
Felicia, how many people come through the visitor center a year?
We are averaging 36,000 folks that are coming through. We are very unique in that you compare us even to Winchester, they're under 10,000 people that come through. So for us to have 36,000 people that stop in and park and come in and ask for, you know, we do have a nice bathroom there, don't get me wrong, but you know, they are, and we'll see those numbers changing a little bit just because the demographics and people, you know, they can ask Google anything anymore and get that information. But yes, we do average over 36,000 people that we're bringing into town that are stopping at the visitor center.
Well, and as we're working on this plan, you know, I think that's one of the things that we need to be cognizant of is that, you know, a lot of those visitors are from foreign countries. They're coming internationally.
Yes, we've learned to do sign language very
well
down there.
So, you know, we need to keep in mind as we're discussing parking and those sorts of things that we want it to be easy for those visitors to get to the visitor center.
And we
and
worked hard to get them here.
I agree with Jacob. I think having additional uses of the gazebo is a wonderful thing because it does mean that people want to be down here. But, you know, those are other things that we need to look at, and we need to keep that in mind because we always want to be user-friendly for those visitors to our community because they are vitally important.
They are, and you know, that's our first date with these folks. They're either going to love Front Royal and brag about us, or they're going to really knock us down. With social media, they can spread the word like wildfire. And you know, there's a number of people that have come in, and we've got some businesses here. And you know, walk the Appalachian Trail. We have through hikers that have come through here and have loved Front Royal and have now moved to Front Royal.
Right.
So this is our first date with these folks to come back, open a business, build a house, start a family here. So it does go a long way. You're right.
Well, I could say from experience that it was my visits to Front Royal as a tourist that eventually brought me here.
Yay.
Although I never actually, interestingly, I never actually went to the visitor center.
We can still send you a brochure. Glad you like this.
Felicia, Commissioner, I would just like to say, you know, what Gene was saying about what the previous purpose may have been for the gazebo, you're in this grant process and everything else, and all of those are very purposeful changes that we're making. I would encourage that also to extend to the purpose of that common area. And maybe that's just, I mean, it doesn't cost any extra. You're already in the discussion. But if the town could come together with a true purpose, and that would alleviate some of this challenge with, oh, are you infringing on these rights or those rights? Because if it's not part of the purpose of downtown, then it gets me moved outside of around, like in front of the courthouse.
Yes.
But the purpose is very important of what goes on down there.
Well, and that was the whole purpose of that grant was for the revitalization,
Yeah.
was to clean up our downtown, was to get more visitors downtown, enhance the business opportunities. So that was the whole goal, and that's what we've stated to the state why we're doing this and spending all of this money and time and energy and effort. So that's our mission. That's what we have to work from. But you're exactly right. We need to keep that top of mind and pay attention to that and make sure that all these accessories that are happening are going to be positives.
Or towards a single goal, like Huck said, I mean, so we can focus on that purpose. Yeah.
As a councilman, I'm sitting here and the Mayor's exactly right. I do a lot of note taking. If you wonder, that's what I do. I do a lot of listening. And I was really concerned about a lot of things. Protesters, drugs, prostitution, parking, event permits, signage. And I'm sitting here and I've looked at all this and I didn't see Memorial Day activities down there, which you sponsor as a, or we sponsor as a town.
I didn't list all the events.
But it appears to me immediately that the gazebo area needs to be, because I do walk, and I'm down there at least 2 days a week walking. And I see a lot of parkers down there that spend all day in the parking. That's my observation. I haven't been approached by a prostitute or a drug person yet. I don't know what I would do. I'm trying to be so embarrassed I wouldn't know what to do. Parking, we've had construction. I have noticed that. And I've asked the chief to move some vehicles that are deadlined out there, and he has. But I think we're going to have to take a long look at the gazebo area and the parking. And he's been working on the signage to get that correct with our town lawyer. And maybe we need to give that a little more priority, move it up the chain. These other things, I'm kind of, you know, at a loss where to start. So I appreciate you all coming out. It was an eye-opener for me. And I'm a good listener, so approach me anytime, Gene. I'll listen.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that.
I personally want to thank everybody for coming tonight and giving me their thoughts, their concerns, their issues. It's the only way we're going to get it on the table and start vetting it out. It'll be my goal to go back and start looking at what other communities are doing, maybe not recreate the wheel, but see what other successes are for other communities. But this will be brought up to a future work session to discuss at a council level in the near future.
Joe, we had the flags also.
Oh, yes, this is very important to me. Normally I do my own thing and then I go to Jeremy and say, oh, was I supposed to fill out an application for this? But I decided not to do this time because I know that we have had those faded brown and white flags, and I'm a very colorful person, and I'm not putting a faded brown and white flag, I don't care how historic it's supposed to be, out in front of my store. So I went down and I said to Jeremy, do you mind if I put a feather flag, which won't slap everybody in the face, and come to find out that, thank God I asked him, because it's $100 a day fine if you put a flag that's not the normal size flag. Even I stopped at that. I thought, you know, $5, $10, I'll go ahead and pay the fine, you know, but $100 a day is very serious. So I want to have feather flags in the flag pole holders, or at least if people don't care about that's fine. But I walk down to the bank, and every day I walk past the antique stores, and I love my antiquers, but their flags are flapping me in the face, and they're flapping everybody in the face because they're too big for the tiny sidewalks. And I think that we should have the ability, if we want to have a feather flag that's skinny and just has color on it and says, welcome, come in, bakery, whatever it says, as long, I don't think it's unattractive, and I think it shouldn't cost me $100 today to go with that. Jeremy?
Well, the $100 a day is, that's just a general fine that can be assessed by a judge for any type of zoning violation. So it's not specific to flags. Plus you do get a 30-day notice, so as long as you correct it. You're not going to be charged $100 unless you refuse.
I know some of you have been around for a long time. I know you remember the little people-looking figures that different businesses used to have. I don't know whatever happened to those. It's kind of faded out. So maybe something
Tri-Ties
else.
using one.
Are they? Oh.
Yeah, they've got one out front.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Looks like a
But,
mannequin.
Similar.
but yeah, it's but they used to have it. I mean, it was a
So
thing,
Trisha
and then
Windsor
it just disappeared. I mean, I don't know. I mean, $100 a day kind of excessive. I would take the 30-day jail time.
30-day jail time. I'd like to say, in general, I think as downtown business owner, I mean, I know one day I popped up a 16-foot feather flag, and man, they were swirling around me like it was hotcakes, right? So I know all about the flags here. But in general, I mean, I got stories. I think it should be, people should know what the deal is. But, you know, I got stories all the way from those really, I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I understand the history, those holes were put not for the businesses technically to use, correct? That's not even what the purpose of the holes in the street were for in the first place. So I think for business downtown, if we could come to something, I mean, now everybody's, we did the A-frame thing a few years ago. I had already had one for a long time. But now, since we did it for that, you know, after 8 thing, now everybody's starting to do that, and I don't even know if that, you know, that's like borderlines code. I know that if you don't have already your, you know, you're permitted for that and all that. So I mean, I think for business owners, visibility-wise, it's very difficult being in a downtown historic district for us to be seen from the street. You know, we've got already so many building regulations about our signage and all that stuff. If we could come up with a little something for flags or something like this, I don't know, would be really, you know, I think it would be really a positive push for downtown businesses.
Well, part of the grant that we've applied for in a few days we'll be able to sign off on is talking about not only the overall signage of getting people from 66 or all these other places and getting them downtown, but because we know we have a parking issue, we're looking at where do we need to expand the parking. So, and Jeremy's, you know, he's leader of the team here. So being able to look at these ordinances, if we're telling people to park back there, we need these alleys to be safe, well lit. They need to know they're strangers. I don't even recognize the back of some of those buildings when I'm driving there. So, you know, additional signage on the back of some of these buildings. That's all part of this grant and all part of what we're going to have to start capturing and thinking this through for this plan to work. So that is part of what we'll be addressing also. Yep.
I'm fine buying my own flag, and I'll even buy the pole. I don't care about that. I just want to be able to have some color and some movement so it catches their eyes when they're walking by.
You can get a different color sign. The code allows for the open flags, but there's no specific color they have to be.
I was told by Mr. Laird that to put a flag out, you had to have the brown, well, it's supposed to be burgundy or something, you know.
You guys told me.
No, that's
as long as it's that size.
Yeah, Jeremy's the planning and zoning director. Come to Jeremy always, please. You heard it right here. You heard it right here. Yes.
You might be confusing it because years ago, the downtown front row, that was the flag I think they created.
Right.
And so I think they required that in that organization, but it wasn't a town requirement to have that flag. We later changed our code to allow those in the street, in those holes. But they have to be the 3x5 or smaller size, and just have the word open or something similar to that.
Say positive movement. That's good.
Okay, so if it has a flamingo on it, is that an issue? I mean, if it says welcome, but it has a.
I'm gonna have to put my foot down.
I painted my building pink and blue.
Just ask.
Nice try, nice try. You can have Jeremy's here 5 days a week, 9 to 5, or 8 to 5. So.
Not that I'm putting a timeline on anything, but when can we expect to hear something as to how you're moving forward with this? I would really like to know that.
I would hope to have some movement, or if you give me 60 days, I think in 60 days I should have it up for council privy, for council to consider and look at and vet out and stuff. So I'm going to need a little bit of time to put it together. And so I would, like I say, if you give me 60 days, I'll put it on, I'll try to get it on the agenda in August. The idea is that if we do decide to do any changes to the code, you know, we'll work towards getting it changed for 2019. Because by the time we do decide what we want to do in the code, you know, we have to do public hearings, and you know that's normally about a 6-week process. So, you know, a couple meetings to vet it out and then get it advertised. It could take November before we could actually finalize any type of new ordinances.
So we've missed the whole season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're not going
But
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
is there, if I go down tomorrow to the town and I say, okay, I'd like to rent the gazebo for $25 or whatever it costs, if I have an insurance certificate, can I just $25 every weekend from now until October?
No, we only let you go. We only let you go. Like for example, Huck, he reserves it once a month, and we only let you go out, I think, 3 months in advance or something like that.
Okay, so I do it 1 month, Jean does it 1 month, and we just leave it empty. I'm just asking.
At least then my customers will have a place to park.
Yeah, I mean, if $50 a weekend, you know.
Well, and realize the $25 is only for electricity. Now, it's not that that doesn't require the permit. Yeah, Joe
You don't have to
said
take the entire compass of what's down there. Because
Yeah.
you're taking the entire compass of every single park, every single place to park. I mean, you're blocking off your visitor center. You're blocking that off. Is there a way to move that down some, so at least we have parking at the very front? Because I'm going to tell you, my older customers, they can't get to me. You know, there's no way they can get to me. They were supposed to have had an event this past weekend. Well, let me tell you, they had to cancel it because it rained. And I had a tremendous Saturday because my customers had a place to park. And I have figures to back that up, guys. I have figures to back up what this is costing me. And it is costing me more than I want to give up. And I know that, you know, I'm just a business downtown like everyone else. Doesn't matter that I've been there 20 years. I'm just a business. But I also know that I bring a lot to downtown. I bring a lot of people downtown from all over, all around. And right now, at this point in time, we have to come up with some solution, and we have to come up with it pretty quickly. And we really do.
It will be a high priority on my list, Jean.
Thank you, Joe.
I
That tells
will
me
work
a
as
great
fast as
deal.
I can, you know, and I will try to make compromises throughout this year until we get something reestablished or get some new whatever. I will try to keep some type of balance down there as much as I can, but I can't guarantee anything.
That's okay. It's just the fact that you're saying it, and you're saying it in front of everyone in this room. I'm thankful for that. Thank you very much.
And we have staff meetings every Monday, so when we talk about the agenda, when I know what's going to be on the work session, I'll make sure to send, that's why your email is so important. I'll make sure to send an email blast out to everybody so that you're aware of when council's having these work sessions. So, you know, this isn't a one-shot deal. You need to come back and make sure, you know, keep us on task here.
In any way we can help.
Yeah.
I'm willing to help any way I can. You know, if you could get a committee together, whatever you need to do, I am willing to spend my time to help you. I really am.
Is it possible to have those events a little more monitored than usual?
As in law enforcement? Or?
Yeah, well, any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I'll be talking to the chief about what we've heard today, and if they're, you know, we'll work on that. Getting a little bit more presence down there.
Right.
And seeing if, and maybe actually trying to witness some of this stuff that's actually taking place down there.
They don't do as much of it when we're around for whatever reason.
Well, maybe a plain clothes down there? Yep.
Yeah.
Just to observe?
Yeah.
I'll give you free ice cream just to sit down there.
They know I will.
Mike?
And please do, if you got, especially on a public safety front, I know the guys do spend some time down there. The officers are down there pretty frequently. But if you see something, call us, and don't hesitate to call us. We will always respond, and call anytime. We're open every day, all day and all night.
I'll attest to that, because they've been to my store twice already, and that's been in less than 5 days.
Joe, is there a public calendar when these reservations are made for the facility that all of us would be able to either look at the website or the calendar?
Yeah.
So everybody knows what's coming up?
Yeah, I've got that as one of my lists to make sure we're getting out proper notifications. But we do have a calendar of events that should be listed on, as well as other community events going in throughout town.
And
I'll also bookmark, you can also bookmark the work sessions and all that. I do it every week. I go and look and see what's on the agenda.
Yeah, and I'll send the blast out when we have some events coming up, if we have to reserve parking, or give everybody a heads up, what time parking signs will go up and that kind of thing. So we can do, if you want me to do it weekly, or however you want me to do it, as soon as I get them, send those emails out to you, everybody. There's other networks we can certainly take advantage of.
Too many linkages where you can link everything now. I get notices on everything that goes on. So might want to make sure we link properly.
Oh, definitely. All right, anybody else? Well, thank you all for coming. We will definitely keep you in the loop. As always, all of our doors are open. I'm sure we'll have sidewalk conversations after this, so we appreciate that. And we'll give you a heads up on the next business forum. All right? Thank you all.